Good morning, everyone. Today is June the 11th, and we are looking for the PPI, I believe, today for releases. And the backdrop of news is fairly muted. We've got China saying that there are more bonds available for companies, and we continue to rise in the overnight. Take a look at this. This is a 6 hour of the continuous contract in the ES. This area right here is what we're moving through. So it is my anticipation that we stretch forward up into this motion. We do have a little bit of negative pressure, but that has really all that's done is keep us bouncing off of the support zone. Today, that support zone looks like 28.94. We'll want to watch for that. And then note that the expansion here on the breakout does lead us generally into this area. Now, one of the big things I want to talk about is the initial breakdown that caused me to give us a bear trigger event, and it is right here. Taking a look at the 6 hour chart, it actually crossed over on the weekly as well, but this area between 29.13 or so and 29.30 is really where the chart began to break down, with 29.13 to 29.15 being our introductory space to the short. So I suspect if we are looking at something like this, that we could easily move up into this area before fading. My thought is that we do have some kind of fade in this space. Some people are calling for new highs even. It's my suspicion that this move has been so steep and so swift that the combination of those two things do give us the likelihood of a fade into the space. Intraday, however, you do not want to move against momentum and trend. Both of those are up, so pullbacks are still buy zones. And that is exactly the same thing that we are seeing in the NQ. Coming up into the resistance zone, you can see that that resistance edge really is probably a little bit closer than this 75.83 to 76.30 or so. That's going to be the number to watch right there. Again, slope and momentum straight up, giving us pullback action off of our support zones. Right now, support 75.30 or so, somewhere around there. We are much further away from that than we would like to be if we are trying to pull a long action event to run. But as I think, particularly that they're going to be on the Hill talking about antitrust issues with some of these very big companies, I suspect that this one might stall out just a little bit. Lots of buying volume over the last couple of days. We can see that really shifting here. Take a look. 4 days of big buying volume, and then a collapse, and then 4 to 5 days of selling volume, and then the bounce. So we'll see what goes on today in general. Higher lows and higher highs mean that our pullbacks are going to be buy zones. I would not buy the breakout here. I just wouldn't. Taking a look at the YM, notice this is a very big motion and it's run right up through this area. This chart is the only one that looks like it's struggling at the resistance zone. It really is coming into an area that has quite a bit of sellers, right? Sellers here, sellers here. Remains to be seen whether there are sellers here. But we do want to take a look at the flow of motion and what the chart looks like as it presses into resistance areas. So far, still upside, still very, very upside. And so the first inflection event is right around here, and that's where we're at. However, the bullish action says, you know what? I've got upside pressure. This moving average is supporting all of that motion. Again, pullbacks are buy zones until they're not. And don't mean to be flippant about that, but it is the case. So let's watch 26,127, and then let's watch it here right at this congestion at 26,230 or so. We've got ourselves a fair amount of resistance that could take us to, 26,280, 26,290. We'll just watch that edge. All right. That's it for the YM. For the CL, look at this. since the beginning of June, what we've done is simply chop around. We really are holding this level. It's pretty critical. We have the API tomorrow, API today, EIA tomorrow, and price action is really quite stalled out. The dollar is also stalling. It's stalling at support. If it begins to bounce up above that 97 region, is going to keep oil a bit diminished and a bit damp. But as it holds now, if oil does bounce again, we might have ourselves another little fade. This seems to be quite sideways. The one fly in the ointment is the following. This could be an inverted head and shoulders pattern. If that's the case, we've got $2 to the upside, neckline at about 54 right there. $2 to the upside gives us 56 or so in terms of moving us up off of a one-to-one measured move of this small inverted pattern. We'll see, right? Right now, everything to me says that bounces are going to be sell zones. This moving average doesn't work quite as well as the others. So that might be a little bit better, but that flattening action, really not what we want to see in terms of real motion. Does tell us, however, that our pullbacks are buy zones. Lastly, we take a look at gold. Gold is holding. It's in a little bit of a sideways pattern. Take a look at this front month contract. It's got some very, very sideways action. We talked about 1347 being a resistance area. It still is major resistance. If we look at the big picture, we really could see ourselves coming back down into 1280, 1285. But my suspicion is that 1300 ends up being a fair test point. It could be 1311, truthfully, but it could also be 1302 to 1301. The big thing is, can I get up over this edge? Right? Here I am right here. I'm underneath this area. If I can hold this zone and bounce right off of this region, I should have myself a support edge, but we've got crossovers all the way through here, and we've got negative drift. So a stair step down, to me, seems like the most likely thing for us to have happen. If I move this to a 20, we can see that we are underneath this edge fairly well. And so the next place that we look for really is that 1305. So bounce actions based on this area should give us selling opportunities all the way to 1329. And then that should bring us back down to 1305. All right, that's it for me, folks. Good luck trading today.